We're back, and what an incredible drama we have here in this scene. It makes the world news seem kind of lame, doesn't it? At least to me. I mean, I haven't even opened your Washington Post, New York Times, FT, Wall Street Journal. I haven't even looked. Who cares? Unfortunately, we probably have to. Anyway, we are back. Artist Journal, November 17th, 2023, broadcasting from deep inside. Deep inside, it's sunny here. It's a little gray out in the physical world, but deep inside, it's very sunny as we make our journey across the high seas of the imagination. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and it is Friday, and I am extremely grateful for that. So check this out. Lorna Mills. We got a preview here of, I think, what's going to go up in Miami, if I'm not mistaken here. Verse put it out. There's no title. But it was really interesting because one of the things we learned from Lorna Mills on Wednesday, who is the artist of this work, the author of this work, one of the things we learned from Lorna Mills the other day was what we see on Object, what I thought actually were her main works. I thought, interestingly, those were kind of at the beginning for her, I don't want to call it a sideshow, but something that was designed for the blockchain, as far as I understand what she was saying, that, okay, I want to make work, say, for Tezos. How do I do that? Maybe instead of having these huge collage-like compositions like the kind that we see here, maybe I'll zoom in on just, one of these elements, right? I'll just pick this guy, or just the hand. But what we learned, everybody who was in the space, and I'll show you the link again in just a couple of minutes here, what we learned is actually for Lorna Mills, these kind of big collage works, at least in her mind when she was starting, were the main deal. That was kind of the main project, and interestingly, these kind of, individual works of individual gifts took on a life of their own, interestingly, and she had an interesting comment where she was saying, I think she used the word admit, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but she never admitted to herself that the works on Tezos and that in a sense that the blockchain had changed her work. I believe that was the question I had. And she's like, but now I kind of have to say that. With these kind of individual works, and I'm using this all as preamble to say this is one of the, what we might call the grand compositions of Lorna Mills, to set the table for us here, so you know what you are seeing here. And look at that raw chicken there. I mean, it's something that's also, it's a very indirect thing, but the choice of subject matter is an art in itself, and oftentimes it kind of gets glossed over a little bit. It's easily kind of passed over, shall we say, for technical considerations, aesthetic considerations. But, I very much, again, Lorna Mills is our artist I very much relate to in many ways. It's always kind of been very kind of central for me, subject matter, and almost the preeminence of subject. What are you talking about, first of all? A question we can all ask ourselves, can't we? What are we talking about? What is the subject of our work? And sometimes it can be formal concerns. Sometimes it is, like Clement Greenberg and the abstract expressionists about the paint on the surface. And other times it's about the representation. And, with Lorna Mills, I'd say it's both. We have, we have these, for example, like chicken, what we might call, and I think August Ground, who was in the space, was calling it the detritus of the internet here, beautifully put. And as we see, the hilarity, the ridiculousness of the internet. And I think I asked Lorna, like, in a sense, are these, collage compositions, these kind of grand compositions, so to speak, are they in a sense a kind of response or reflection of the internet? And in a sense, I never posed the question to her this way, but are these in a sense a portrait of us to a certain degree? We're back to yesterday's episode, a portrait of us all, another portrait of us all. And to a certain degree, I would argue that's probably what this is. And she actually kind of, agreed with what I was saying. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that listened to the space, if you understood differently. But in a sense, this is a reflection of, internet culture, so to speak, which at the end of the day, human nature, humans put all this stuff up. And so it becomes this, this kind of, what we might consider trivial content, like the chicken and odd sort of stuff, and a skeleton dancing on a potato with eyes or something. Right? Or whatever this baby with the steam coming out is. The more ridiculous, the better to a certain degree, with a little touch of nature, actually. I love Lorna Mills' nature works, but I love, having that, and I don't want to go too long here, but having that discussion, it really helped me understand Lorna Mills' work on a much deeper level, and kind of her, again, these kind of originally being these kind of large collage compositions being kind of the main show, so to speak. So we have a new one here, and this is posted by someone at Verse, Layla. The brilliant, bizarre, and genius world of Lorna Mills brings me joy repeatedly. And what I was going to say, actually, I'm glad she brought up the word genius, is the content can look trivial to a certain degree. Again, these kind of lo-fi, from a content perspective, okay, chicken, it's a pigeon. But when you put it all together, this is actually quite a sophisticated endeavor that Lorna Mills is embarked on here. A portrait, genuine portrait, and just a final point on this, actually, that I wanted to bring up. She uses a lot of sampled GIFs, but sometimes she makes her own, which I was actually surprised by. So that was interesting, too. I suspect, and I'm not positive, I suspect these are probably all sampled, but not positive on that. They kind of, unless she has a dog with a curtain, it wouldn't shock me, actually. So this will be released on VerseWorks, who actually has a very nice website. Remember the Quampa show? I'm pretty sure that was on VerseWorks. They've been doing a really nice job. December 1st at 6 p.m., this work will be available on VerseWorks. So super cool there. And also from Layla at Verse. So we're also discussing transfer and who transfer is, because I wasn't really familiar with it. And apparently it's a pretty big deal, at least in the digital art space. And here we have a quick, and look at this. And I can't tell, to me, this doesn't look like a screen. It looks like a canvas. This looks like a static version of a Lorna Mills. And I'm not positive on that, because she was saying, with screens, she's always like, the bigger, the better. So maybe it's a screen, but this looks like actually a static kind of collage on canvas. That is what that looks like to me. If anybody else knows otherwise, do correct. Oh, maybe, no, this is a screen. Look, you can see the light. I assume that's you can see the light coming from the pink here. But and I'm not exactly sure if Lorna has done a collage that is static, but to me this works, actually, as a static work, interestingly. So, but looking at that light reflecting off the pink here, and maybe even the hand a little bit here onto the floor, and even here, it's a little brighter than it should be than if that was static. If that was static and like paper on canvas or something like to that effect, I don't think we'd get such a strong reflection there. So maybe it's a screen. Let's see what Layla has to say here. Transfer. So this was basically the people who helped establish Lorna Mills. Was established in 2013. At that point, Lorna was already, I guess they helped after she was already established in the digital art scene, and one of the first artists they represented. Let me make that bigger here. The gallery was organized close to 100 solo exhibitions by different artists, experimenting with new models of presenting digital and time-based media art in a gallery setting. Time-based media art. I guess another way of describing a GIF. A transfer, but also probably includes video. So time-based media art, interesting. Probably moving is also, a characteristic of that. A transfer has played an integral role in showcasing Lorna's historical pieces and placing her works in prestigious institutions like the Whitney Museum of American Art. We are so pleased to collaborate with Transfer to show Lorna's incredible work here at our event. Please RSVP. Image below, petting zoo, epic biblical at Spring Break, LA, 16-panel LED wall, courtesy of transfer. So interesting, 16-panel LED walls. So probably each one, there's probably, maybe 4. I'm not exactly sure how this is divided up, to be perfectly frank. Maybe it's 4x4. I have no idea. But it looks like one ginormous TV, doesn't it? So probably 16 TVs put together. So anyway, very cool. Interesting info from Layla. And this was the show. Finally, if you haven't seen it or listened, it is in the Twitter feed. You might have to dig a little bit, but not too much. And really great show. 388, that's a pretty good turnout there. And it was, more importantly, it was just a really interesting show. Chertovsky, Adrian, thank you for the portrait here. Chertovsky, part of, or kind of in the style of the collection that Chertovsky is going to release here. And pretty cool, actually. Coming out of a little window here. I'd argue captures the likeness pretty good. It reminds me of the drawings by B. Maybe I have more bags under my eyes than I realize. I don't mind that at all, by the way. I think it's great. However I'm perceived, I'm cool. And interesting. I love the arrow, too. The cursor here. And pointing at the art and almost, stabbing the art a little bit. Cool work. Nice big. I love how it breathes, too, actually. One of one. Thank you for sending that to me as well. And I assume this is going to be on Object because it was sent to me on Object, part of the So City series here. I'm not sure if it's been minted yet. I don't think it has. Or maybe I saw something, there was 4 owners there. But this looks like what it is. Just shout out to Chertovsky. So City, the name is wordplay with society and some fun meaning in my native language. No generation this time. All the tokens are hand-drawn, no repetitions, no common attributes. So check that out on Chertovsky's feed there. Pretty cool. And thank you again for the shout out and the drawing. Continuing on, we got some fabulous comments here on the last show, and it was minted really late. I tell you, one great thing about getting out of Berlin is the internet speeds were about 50 times faster. I'm not sure if this is just where my last, like this apartment and the last apartment. I'm going to do an experiment actually today, but it's taking me like over an hour to upload like 3 gigabytes, sometimes less. So that is, so all to say, that's why it was so late yesterday on both Twitter and YouTube. By the way, maybe it's just a glitch in the internet right now. Who knows? But Rome, it was like 30 seconds, maybe a minute. 2 minutes, and same with London was extremely fast, so just kind of interesting. Let's look at the comments here. Bernardo Pesque, GM Adrian, Pomelo, so it's Pomelo over here, who did the turntable with the music and that kind of nice illustration. Thank you for sharing, and yeah, the idea is creating a collection where the music is the protagonist of the piece. The animation is intended to be a secondary aspect of it all. In the future, my intention is to try to mix the vibe of the music with the animation and the text also. Love your show. I watch it every time I can. Thank you so much, Pomelo. And the music's always awesome, and the drawings are awesome. I love the concept. It's very fun. Every time I see one, I can't wait to put it up. And it kind of gives the show a nice kind of musical break, too. Cool work, and looking forward to seeing more. Violet Tripp. GM Adrian, thanks for highlighting my work. Great show as always, and you're welcome, Violet. That was a very cool work yesterday. Scomra, I think Sabato created a separate account, Marginalia, for the Marginalia work, so that totally explains it, which is why it is not showing up on his object page. Okay, so that explains it all. I tell you, Scomra, as you're going to see here, let's just read the comment. The Jerry Saltz situation is interesting. I think his zombie formalism essay is a great takedown of the economics around an art movement. And of course, zombie formalism, I haven't read that essay, but maybe I'll try. I should take a look at that, because maybe it's also a way of getting to know Jerry Saltz a little bit better in terms of how he thinks. Because this seemed like the most manufactured art movement of all time, and you can tell by the name. Right. I like his eye. That was around, if I had to put a year on it, maybe 2007, maybe leading up to the whole financial crash there. I like his eye for how money and politics work in art and what I've read of his work. It was also interesting to see Patrick Amadon come to Saltz's defense. I saw that. That was interesting, with Patrick saying that Jerry's criticisms helped improve his art. That said, I agree with you that he could have made the screensaver comment in a more constructive way. It probably wouldn't to lead as many clicks, though. The sort of WrestleMania approach to culture, I think, is fine at the top and in the mainstream. My guess is that Saltz's criticisms only increase the value of Anadol's work. It is probably win-win for both of them. I would hate to see Saltz-like tactics on the pirate ship, though. Great show, and thanks so much for showing my works. So I was thinking to myself, like, if there was an op-ed section, like, Scomra would probably be at the top of the list as far as, like, we need someone to edit the op-ed side. Like, these are really refined comments here from my perspective. And I think you nailed it, actually, because there is a difference between, at the very top of the totem pole, shall we say, that this WrestleMania approach to culture is fine at the top. And I kind of I agree with you. Like, I put it this way. I don't think it excuses poor behavior at any level, right? But to a certain degree, I'm quite sympathetic, because we don't want to be snowflakes here either. We don't want to be like, oh, don't say anything negative. What do they call it? Toxic positivity. Like, we don't want to be like, oh, you can't say anything bad. And, we want to have tough skins here. And by default, as an artist, you have to have a tough skin, right? A thick skin, as they say. So I think this is a really actually interesting and accurate, like, I agree with you. Like, at the top, it's fine. That being said, I would qualify that by saying one also has to look at the role model aspect of what Jerry Saltz is doing, and then, okay, who's the next person who's going to try and be the next Jerry Saltz? And then I still think it was bad form, as you're kind of saying as well here. So interestingly, as we're going to see, Saltz actually deleted the tweet. So I think that actually adds to our argument. Maybe Saltz himself was starting to think, well, maybe this doesn't reflect very well upon me, and therefore I will delete it. I don't know why it would be deleted otherwise. Okay, so maybe Saltz would even agree with us in his heart of hearts, although he might not declare so publicly. And I agree, the Saltz-like WrestleMania on this stage, I don't think there'd be as many people watching. I think half the world would hate me if I started talking like this. About, like, someone that's selling like 5 editions on Tezos for $2, right? It'd be outrageous. So I kind of agree. It does, context matters in this, and putting it at the very top of the totem, at the top of the, pecking order, whatever you want to call it, maybe that's okay. And maybe we should have thick skins about it. If you're going to show it, MoMA, travel the world, and then all of a sudden you're the AI artist, well, you better, if one of the main critics is like attacking you, you should be able to punch back and defend yourself. Let's put it that way. So fantastic comment as usual, Scommer. Thank you. Kyle Flemmer, excellent choice for the cover, referring to Sabato's brilliant work of art there. And Rosacho, Jerry Saltz did it again. Yeah, I don't know what is up with him. Feels like he did it just for engagement farming, but I don't know. I agree with you. We don't have to love every piece of art in the world, but there's no need to attack the art or the artists like that. And it does also come back to, what is the example that Jerry Saltz is setting for even people who are in art school? Maybe there's even art professors that think, oh, well, actually, I can trash artists' work, and then they go to smaller artists or people who have or completely nowhere on the map and then start trashing them, right? So I don't like the example it sets. I think it's kind of a slight loss of dignity to a certain degree. And again, I'm kind of back to this bad form idea. That being said, at the very top, I don't know if it disqualifies him. I'm not sure it's a disqualifier, is how I'd kind of couch that, because I think ultimately Scommer it's a pretty, it's okay. Maybe it's okay at the top, but it doesn't excuse poor behavior though. So continuing on, Sabato. We heard from Sabato. Hey, Poco, honored to be on the cover and big thank you. This is on Twitter here. Let me just pause that. Honored to be on the cover and big thank you for the kind words about the piece. You're spot on about the lack of color cycles. I felt it would distract from the gravity of the situation and wanted to channel a bit of Adorno, which we have touched on here. To write poetry after Auschwitz is barbarism. Also, the drink is a Modelo Especial beer, which is a personal fave. So pretty hilarious. It is not a monster drink. I thought that was a little, what would we say, just like unusual that there'd be a monster drink here, but I didn't know what else it could be. So very interesting. And you know what else I find interesting here is Sabato has this not very literal interpretation of Adorno, but taking the spirit of what Adorno was saying and applying it. And because what I would call the charity of interpretation, because even Adorno, I think we were seeing on ChatGPT, eventually kind of took back some of what he was saying in regard to this statement. But I think Sabato kind of puts it, it's kind of exactly like we were saying, to start making these pretty little gradients kind of flowing across. There's something kind of barbaric about that, we might say. I mean, barbaric's maybe a strong word. And I think, again, why... So he kind of, I feel, understood. Like I put it this way, I like how he's interpreting Adorno, because this work is, of course, you know, writing poetry, but it's not stopping him from making the work. But it is, he's kind of taking that in stride and, you know, in his consideration, which what I would say would trivialize the gravity of the content, as he put here, the gravity of the situation. Thank you, Sabato, and fascinating as ever. And let me just check out the other comments here. Thank you, Lucas Lejeune. Jan Lucas Migon, really nice comment. Love your vision of the arts. Really interesting, or really nice thing to hear. And it's kind of interesting. Like, I don't know how different it is. In a weird way, you know, and this kind of harkens to a future tab here. Like, I've been an outsider all my life, I have to say. You know, and so I have actually kind of had to create to a certain degree, at least from an art perspective. I have had to create my own kind of narrative, and maybe that's part of the impetus of this show on a certain level. I'm not sure, but I totally appreciate that, and I'm glad you enjoy that. One of one. This caught my eye too in a big way earlier this week, referring to the Sabato work. SG, amazing as always. We're going to see some SG. Really amazing work that I'd never seen before, I don't think. Cider, appreciate the feature. The pieces of Ronaldo, Fenomeno, known better as R9, a great footballer who even won 2 World Cups. Of course. I kind of looked like the Hulk a little bit, but, yeah, it's Ronaldo. So it's a manipulation of one of his iconic photos with the highlight of his weird haircut used to hide his injury from the media, making the main focus on his hair. And I remember that haircut. Of course, Ronaldo is a legend. There's Sabato. I think Sabato's from Brazil too, so of course. Thank you, Cider. Martin Joe, thank you for showing my work. Those chairs are the work of Marietta Bernal, those spiked chairs. One of my favorite 3D artists. I remember reading Justine and Juliet as a teenager. So a few years ago, I bought Philosophy in the Bedroom, but found it insufferable. Interesting. I don't know if it's been quite a long time. I think I tried, because it's got a great title, right? And I think I tried, but I may have found it insufferable as well. I've read, excerpts from Justine and Juliet. And so, yeah, very interesting in the context of Martin Joe's work. The Sade influence, the Marquis de Sade influence. So kind of, we may be onto something with that kind of loose interpretation there. Leo, recordar et viver, and this is interesting, a classic Brazilian expression that roughly translates to remember is to live. So, yeah, because I think in Italian, it's a similar word. I'm learning Italian right now, which is memory, to remember is to live. Very interesting. Beautiful work from Sabato. Iris, and we're almost done here. I really enjoy your YouTube channel. I always watch it before I go to sleep to see new artists. I love your selections of artwork. Thank you, Iris. Very great to hear. Booby, thank you. And Dan Kelly. This was also very interesting to Echo Guandanarian. Sentiment on software costs. Procreate Dreams comes out in a few days. Oh, wow. So there's a new Procreate. Procreate Dreams. What is that going to be? Only $20. Feels like they have opened doors to many artists on a budget the past few years. One still needs an iPad, which is a rough point of entry, but appreciate perpetual licenses. Welcome to the editorial page here as well, Dan Kelly. Exactly. Like hitting all the notes here. Exactly. And let me just make sure. I'm not sure if I assume I'm already following Dan, but in case I'm not. Very good. Thank you, everybody. I've already liked these. I feel like I just liked that one. Twitter's a little, it's weird on the updates. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper into this controversy here as we have the 25-minute mark. Robness. The more Refik complains, the more I'm kind of siding with good old Jerry Saltz on the critique. If you can't handle criticism from the outside world, what kind of art are you actually making? Or rather, how daring is it? Screensavers were made not to challenge, but to placate the senses. Perhaps he was right. And this is interesting because the screensavers themselves became a big part of the debate, like, what's wrong with screensavers? And I kind of agree with Robness on this one, that the screensaver, like a lot of, I think, generative, and saying how this was kind of in the tradition of generative art. And, it's interesting. I guess I would say, I thought it was weird that people kind of jumped on as saying, screensavers are wonderful art. What's the problem? Interesting comment from Robness, and we'll see. We have several comments here today. Refik. So this was referring to and retweeting this Refik Anadol statement. When an art critique has no idea about the culture, context, and discourse of his words, digital art community shares all kind of perspectives. You like the art or not. Culture is something bigger than one work of art, and that's where the community is. So almost avoiding a little bit the subject, one could argue. I mean, it's up maybe at the start here, but so interesting. And of course, people weighing in, and I guess this is Refik Anadol, and there is Jerry Saltz. So this got like 168,000 views. Of course, people, one of the most famous people in the NFT scene here. Refik Anadol. So this was I just want to give more context here so we have a good idea of kind of the original tweet. Refik Anadol arrived in Milan to give a masterclass at Photo Vogue. Our Metamorphosis AI data sculpture was one of the first examples of using real-time generative AI with image, sound and scent in the form of public art. We'll be sharing our studio journey today. And here's the volume here a little bit. So here is the work. So just for context here, and in case you're not familiar with Refik Anadol's work or what's being discussed here, because I don't think we looked at that. And also, Refik replied to Jerry. Here's the deleted tweet from Jerry Saltz here. ChatGPT rates better than you, Jerry. Time to grow, time to find new vocabulary. So kind of clapping back there from Refik to Jerry Saltz, and continue. And let's look at this. Means anyone like, okay, and then Refik answered his own tweet. Means anyone like Jerry guessing without knowing needs to research, understand the medium. He doesn't even understand that he has seen some complete generative art system that is creating audio and image and scent cohesively. I think Jerry Saltz is, it's a fair comment, and Jerry Saltz does seem, but I think Jerry Saltz would say, I'm focusing on the visual. Thank you. Interestingly. And this was an interesting comment too from El Barba Roja. Maybe he did research and just doesn't like it. I don't know what the big deal is. Not everyone has to like all art. Him mentioning your art to me is a win. Shows this medium is here to stay. I don't think we need Jerry Saltz, though. To me, it's, I don't think we need frankly, an art critic to tell if, a medium is legit. It's artists making work that are powerful with AI. And clearly, if you look at Strange Thing, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, what would I put in the front of the MoMA? I'd probably put some Strange Things. Okay. I mean, so, but, that's just, everybody's got, it's subjective, right? To a certain degree. I don't see anything wrong with critique. To me, it's a celebration of your work. And again, it kind of echoes the Warhol, I think it's in The Philosophy of Andy Warhol, or from A to B and back, which is, it's not what they say about you, it's how many inches they write about you in articles, on paper, right? How long is the article about you? So there's no, or, classic kind of New York PR, motto, there's no such thing as bad publicity. What's publicity? It's free advertising. It's advertising that you don't pay for. That's what publicity is. And that's what Refik Anadol is getting. Des Boot, critics are... I actually totally relate to this. And again, some people might think that I've been called an art critic many times on this, just in comments, like, oh, great art criticism and blah. I don't see myself as a critic or curator, even though there's a lot of what I do that overlaps with it. I'm an artist that talks about art and just gives my commentary here. This is an artist's journal, by the way. And so I'm quite sympathetic with what Des Boot is saying here. Critics are irrelevant when it comes to art. Remember, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And also truly remember, Vincent van Gogh was bashed by many art critics his entire life. And this is true of so many artists. And sometimes other artists will bash art, So, it's what I like about art is you don't have to rely on anybody. We were discussing that in the space with Lorna Mills. It's you can do your thing and nobody has to like it, and you can keep going. And kind of, I'm sure some of Van Gogh's circle were pretty impressed, but it didn't stop him. And that's the beautiful thing about art. Here's another one, Brian Brinkman. Not sure why people are continuing to debate if an artist who's in the MoMA Permanent Collection, created the recent backdrop for the Grammys, is the first artist for the Vegas Sphere, and has sold his art for millions, is good enough. And, Vegas Sphere, I don't know if that really means... Even the MoMA, to me, increasingly, it's not like I go and check what the MoMA is doing on their website because I have to know. I don't. Even if I'm in New York, I'm in the Grammys, that doesn't, in my opinion, this doesn't mean anything. Actually, maybe it's something, but there's all sorts of people, who, the Vegas Sphere, I guess this means something clearly, but these institutions, it's sort of like Sotheby's, it's, how exclusive is Sotheby's is if half the artists in the show, or, I'm exaggerating, or 5% of the artists in the show have actually showed at Sotheby's. These institutions, I think, in the age of the internet are slowly eroding, like water on rocks, and they're just slowly eroding. And I think new institutions will actually ultimately be built. I'm kind of tired, frankly, of what I see in the institutions. Maybe it's part of the impetus of this show to a certain degree. So I'm not sure any of this means, it doesn't mean anything to me, to be perfectly honest, those things, whether a work is good or not. It means something. I'm not going to say MoMA means nothing, but it means something for sure. But, I don't love necessarily everything that's in the MoMA collection. And I don't have to. Anyways, let's keep going here. Nicholas Sassoon. So the defense of screensavers. And this is actually, I have to admit, this is quite a beautiful one here. I've never seen this one. Screensavers are one of those rare times when we take a step back from our displays. They become idle, light-based objects within our home. It's an important moment where we look at screens as displays for aesthetic experiences within a larger context. So what I like about this comment here is they're all kind of they're not going, each is just a little leap. And you go, okay, it's pretty tight logic here, actually. And Nicholas Sassoon is not trying to say too much here. He's not saying we're going to have the most incredible aesthetic experiences of our life, but they are a source of aesthetic experiences. So nicely understated here in the newspaper, The Imagination here from Nicholas Sassoon, a nice visual. Because it shows, that's pretty nice. Peter Pasma, screensavers didn't just exist to prevent monitor burn-in. Otherwise, we'd just have the black screen one, or a moving logo. It was one of the first opportunities for creative coders to express themselves to a large audience using a new art form. They didn't have to make them as mesmerizing as they are. The entire concept of computer art was still quite new, and some very lucky creative coders saw an opportunity to express themselves with screensavers in popular operating systems. Of course, there was computer art before screensavers, but you also can't deny a whole generation of generative artists have been fascinated and inspired by screensavers, dreaming how cool it would be if that was their program. So I have to say the whole kind of defense of screensavers came as somewhat of a surprise to me. Maybe it's because I have a bit of a gap when it comes to generative art. Like, it doesn't grab me in the same way, but I think for all those, and that's not to say there's anything wrong with it, because I think there's a lot of people that who are very, qualified and smart and intelligent who love it, and that's great. Everybody doesn't have to love the same art. But I was surprised at the defense of, and so all to say, I think maybe, just speculating here, the overlap between people who are describing or defending, you might say, the screensaver as art form are oftentimes, it seemed to me, feel free to disagree, a lot of the people who like generative art. So that is interesting. Maybe it comes with a different kind of perspective. Okay. So interesting comments from Peter Pasma. And finally here, Grace B. Jerry Saltz are physical art pieces than wall savers. As long as you're experienced when an art piece, the artist's language moves you and enriches your life times more than a day or two, their craft is art. In any event, the beholder decides what's art, not me nor you. So I thought this is where the argument started to get more desperate, though. But interesting comment here from Grace B. Now, this is, I will say, this screensaver here, and I wish we had the animated version, is probably my favorite. Like, that did impress the hell out of me when I was, 15 years old. Art Gnome, probably surprising to nobody that I love screensavers. Windows 3D pipes with the 1/1000th appearance of Martin Newell's Utah Teapot as an Easter egg might be my fave. So this is a great, it's a pretty cool work. And if you saw someone, if you'd never seen this, pipes before, and then you saw someone put on object, you'd probably be pretty impressed, right? So interesting, fair comment here. Finally, Limbo. The visual I made through a visual synth will be implemented as a loop animation featured inside of a screen in my new piece. So Limbo is, it kind of almost looks like a screensaver, Limbo, putting it on the screen of a computer in a new piece. So anyways, big shout out to Limbo. Looking forward to seeing that. And finally, Sky Goodman, I feel like we should all make some dope screensavers and curate an object drop. And then what was funny is Kika Nikolela is the curator there. And what do you think? Yes, let's. So pretty hilarious. Cableen. Wait, what? So the new Object 1 drop, big article in Spanish here. I'm not sure which newspaper this is or magazine, but that's pretty cool. Spanish newspaper. I wonder which one. Pretty interesting there. Now, on the curating front, because there's the Miami Beach Tezos. I think this is where this is coming from, and I'm not positive. But I've seen a bit of kind of pushback on the Tezos, Miami Beach thing. So I think this is where this is coming from, but I'm not positive. Maybe it's talking about, like, for all I know, it's talking about this show. Let me show you the comment here. Michael Hughes, hey, let's just curate the same people over and over and over and over and over again. So, this is an interesting, I just think it's an interesting comment. There's not much you can, put it this way. I think in our situation, I'm actually quite optimistic on, like, the internet, Web3, even things happening on Twitter. Honestly, I'm seeing it the most open it's been in my entire life. I think Retro Manny might agree with that, who was kind of making a similar comment. Like, it's never been so open. Without the internet and the whole Twitter thing and the NFT thing, kind of the Twitter community or the X community, I was just sailing on my own on a little skiff, on a little, just in the high seas. Like, there's no, so, I started making sales. So I'm not as pessimistic on this whole, I think new people are being discovered all the time. And I think there's an appetite for it, interestingly. Curio Fringe And I think we might have a work by Michael. Actually, we do in this show. Also, so Curio also commenting on this. Even the few that bring in new talents still have a click that they routinely boost with extreme bias. So again, not exactly sure who. There's no specifics here. Folks, just think for yourself and don't give any critics or curators more authority than you would any other schmuck on the side of the road. So I do agree with this. Think for yourself, and you have to. You have to. So just kind of interesting from Curio Fringe. Now I brought up a couple examples, though, of people that are kind of making inroads. Luciana Guerra, GM, having amazing news. My art was selected in one of the most important art salons in my country, Manuel Belgrano. It's important because it's the first time in 67 years that digital art is selected within a painting category. Digital painting is considered as painting. So proud. So great work by Luciana Guerra. Look at this huge work here. Big congratulations. Again, a digital painting, as we like to call them here. So I see inroads, and here's Rinnyfish. I'm so excited. And again, Rinnyfish is going to be in Beeple Studio, and I don't get the sense that, Luciana Guerra or Rinnyfish are insiders. So I'm actually not as pessimistic on the whole curation of the always the same people. And just a final note on that, I mean, on a personal level, like if you really have strong conviction in your art, you kind of think, well, that'll reflect badly on them in the long term. If nobody's curating, or if, let's say, so I don't let it, I'm kind of way past thinking that any, I don't think about it really. Like when I see it, I just go, oh, that's interesting. I'm never like, oh, why aren't I in there? I never like, I don't think like, and maybe it's just a function because I've never have been. Perhaps. Anyways, I'm going too deep here. Let's look at Rinnyfish. I'm so excited to showcase my new art in Lume Studios, New York City on November 21st. This piece, Illusion, will be live on Foundation at the same time. Illusional bugs with illusional music. Thanks for organizing. ONBD Art, great people, and the Ghost Club. And again, I see all sorts of people I haven't heard before and kind of, not huge. Like Paper Buddha is pretty big on object, but I'm not sure if Paper Buddha is showing everywhere. So I see, and you can always put on a show yourself, right? Look at this. Apple IIe. That brings me back. Shout out to Mom. Shout out to Mom. Look at this. Broderbund. I wonder if that was German. Maybe Swedish or Norwegian. With the O there. Dazzle Draw, I've never even heard of this, on an Apple IIe Broderbund software 1984. File, tools, edit, goodies. So it's a color Apple IIe, I might add. Look at how beautiful this looks. And this really just harkens back to our earlier discussion on if you hit a wall creatively, try a new software. Try an old software. And it's sort of like try a different medium if you're working physically. Try some collage, add some medium to your paint, try a new medium. And here's more. And look at this. Like, so here, and I mean, again, shout out to Mom who brought home the Apple IIe, this computer right here to our home when I was like 4 or 5 years old. That was a game changer. And so how cool is this? I guess there's ways you can transfer this over and into a computer and then have it on a big fancy screen like this. So how cool is that? About Dazzle Draw. Yeah, 1984 by David Snyder. That is just so cool. It brings back waves of nostalgia here. Spiegel's Maskinen, just another example. Look at that great signature there. Another example, cool black and white artwork here. Let's see what it says. The Bureaucrat print edition, 1 of 10 sold to Amazing Uxine. Is this a new? Thank you. So maybe bought another one. Thank you so much. This will be shipped and sent your way this week. Or maybe it's the first one Uxine bought and is going to be shipped. I'm not sure. But I think we saw a week ago or so that Uxine had bought another one, or had bought one. Lorna Mills, and just on the Spiegel's show here, the pixel platform along the lower horizontal edge is one of those strange decisions that makes this work so wonderful. And again, one of the things I love about Lorna Mills is it's very real world, pragmatic, practical. This is an artist of the world because artists, I'd argue, with experience look at what could be seen as trivial. Well, that's what's so poetic about that. but I completely agree with her. This beautiful thing at the bottom, that's the nature of art. It's the irrationality of art. This is why, it's often important, you might say, to have an irrational component in your art. It can often be the poetic component, as Lorna Mills is kind of, turning our attention to here. So I thought that was a great, very real world comment on, what makes art work. And look at this. This is also, is this verse? Verse works. Solve unsolved controls. Vessel designed numerous controls for interacting with his latest generative series, see below. Now, again, maybe I just need to learn more about generative art because this is super cool. And it actually looks, it actually looks like it's physical, as I'll show you in a second here. So this is how it moves, interestingly. And let me show you this. This kind of looks physical, but I'm not actually sure. Upscale resolution to save high-res output. So maybe it is all digital. Let's see. Maybe this is all digital because you see this background here. I thought maybe this was textured paper. It's not. This is so it just has the feeling of textured paper. So pretty interesting. But it gives the sense of print, doesn't it? So interesting series there on VerseWorks. And of course, Rada. Do you feel excitement when Postman rings your door? What about opening mystery loot or gambling with weird one-of-ones from your faceless crypto artist? Imagine that and more. The tickets are limited and get burned. Only 7 remain. Here's the link on Object. I wonder what these are selling for. Let's look. Here is another one of those very small kind of postcard-sized works that Rada is sending out. Let's just look at what the secondary is doing. 190. Not terrible. The mint price was, I think, 130 and 150, so you can still get it for a reasonable price. There is one there on secondary. Still available, and finally, it's 46 minutes, my God. Jacob, Zora's distribution is more than Zora. Currently, 30% of mints occur across other platforms, which are now earning ETH for the distribution they bring. More than 30% of mints occur across other platforms. So you know how we've seen mint.fun? That sounds like it's on Zora. Daylight, another one that I've never even heard of. On Spotlight, I don't think I've heard of that one either. So Zora's helpful platforms become revenue generating. So FYI, for your information, for all the artists that are minting on Zora, there are other opportunities out there because maybe the smaller marketplaces, I mean, they do have over 30%. But maybe it's easier to get to the top of the page. There's just less competition. And look at Zora. This is from October. Referrals, interestingly. So actually, these secondary sites look like they're going up, is what I think is going on here. Pretty cool. And finally, Dan Control seemingly gets a tattoo of this plastic chair here. What does it say? I like plastic chairs. Indeed. Hilarious. Very Dan Control. I assume that's Dan Control. And this was sent to me by Josh Sobel. Ai Weiwei doing pixel art. And you don't see it. I don't think you see it here, but wait till you. I mean, is that. Oh, that is pixels. Those are kind of pixelated. If you look up close, I'm not sure on this one. It's clear here. It's very clear here. I was looking on my phone, so it was slightly smaller, but this was clearly pixel art. And here you do see some bitmap kind of rasterization of sorts. Wild imagery there. Hopefully that doesn't kill this thing on Object. It wouldn't surprise me if it did. Anyway, it showed up on Instagram, so maybe the algs. I call them the tyranny of the algorithms, right? Where you have to worry about just anything, nudes, whatever. Anyway, into the work we go. RJ, the Curation, using some AI made with Midjourney, Dither, courtesy. So I think Dither, courtesy of OXDIID, is, remember, for putting things on chain? And pixel art. So 600 by 600 pixels. So here's the work, and there was an earlier version that was minted. Really nice solution here, I might add, from RJ, because if you look at this next work, this one was burned using Midjourney, Dither, and drawing tools, and I think the other one is far more successful. And you see the challenge when you have kind of, to me, I totally relate to what RJ is doing in terms of sometimes you have a nice kind of source image, but to transform it right is actually a challenge. And this is actually, you will see pixels here. But I think the other one that was kept is actually a much more successful, interestingly. So nice move here by RJ. Very nice solution. Look at this, Martin Brook with another fantastic work here. Window Landscape. November 17th, reserve of 0.12 ETH. I don't think we looked at this one. And actually, Martin, where was that comment? Martin actually left a comment, maybe it was a tweet, saying he does not use AI in the work. Because remember I was saying it almost looks like those textured works by, say, Scamra and a couple of others where there's AI added to create the AI pixelation, AI pixel art. That is not happening with Martin Brook. So just so you know, really beautiful work here. It looks like, I guess it's a window landscape. Nice concept too, and I'd just say a really nice one. 0.12. And here are some of the ones we also missed by Martin on Zora. And this almost looks physical, doesn't it? Remember, maybe a combination. This almost looks like a collage. We don't have any information here. This almost looks like a physical work, because we know Martin works. Remember the oil painting we saw? I think it was oil. But here, it's not clear if this is oil. That looks like a little trickier to do. Maybe that is digital. So mixing mediums here in a very interesting and provocative way. Look at this. I don't know why the text is on top. Maybe that is, I guess you can make the letters really big on Zora if you want to. Interesting dragon here. It's called Dragon Pet. And it looks like on a phone or something, maybe zooming through the sky. Just interesting work here on Zora. And I think we saw this one, Cactus Business. Under Eclipse, I'm pretty sure we saw that one. So here are the works on Zora from Martin Bruce. And Walk, has been putting out this series for a while now, or at least a week or two, I think. And I think it's a September 11th series here, because we see the time, 8:47, and I think it starts on the other page here at 8:46, and then because you see Mona Lisa here, so 8:46, and then we have the time. It's like every minute, and Walk is taking a screenshot, perhaps, and giving it a treatment along that whole morning, that fateful morning there. And this looks almost like the stock exchange. Maybe it's news footage, newsreel. Not sure. Pretty interesting and all sold out. You can often get these like at auction for 10 Tezos. They've been selling pretty cheap. So you can, like maybe 15, 20. I mean, we can take a quick look here. What did the last one go for? 5 Tezos. So, you can probably get a cool Walk, just very cool series here from Walk. Again, totally digital here. Editions of 1. Going for quite reasonable. Let's speed up here. This is Gon's How Long is Forever. So another interesting digital abstract work here. Static, not moving. Interesting kind of yellow background here. Would hang well with Santiago here. This is Gon's How Long is Forever. Abstract glitch artwork made mixing code and custom digital paint tool. Custom digital paint tool. Interesting. Storm next week. Speaking of Santiago, who also makes his own digital paint tools, custom digital paint tools. And again, coming back to these diagonal pixels here, or like tilted pixels, just brilliant and super cool and very effective and kind of really gives it an arty feel. To kind of echo Lorna Mills there on Spiegels, like the tilted pixels here, I find super effective. We've seen that before, and more tilt, like a heavier tilt right in here, if you can see that. They're almost like diamonds, but not. Nice piece. Dice game behind everything. So for Santiago fans, by the way, this one of one going for 20 Tezos here. So some one of ones are going at very reasonable prices here. So those people that kind of are very vigilant on object, you can still pick up like great deals here. Here's another one. I think it went for like 33. So it went to Trippy Collector. Shout out to Trippy Collector. Nice purchase there. A one of one. Martin Joe, also made with Santiago's tool, editor. And here's actually the link, awesomely, if you want to use it. And Photoshop, Bacteria Rave. This is what a Bacteria Rave sounds like. So here it is, and maybe some echoes of Ed Marola's pixel art class. So very cool work from Martin Joe using Santiago's tool. Dylan, really nice abstract here. Digital drawing. Check this out. A 1 of 1. Very nice piece here. Kind of paperish texture here. This is a digital drawing. I mean, pretty nice. And you got to love this too. 1 of 1. Kind of importing physical tropes, we might say, but this is a digital drawing. So how interesting is that? 1 of 1 for only 15 Tezos. Nice piece. Nice piece from Dylan. And here is SG, who I think we saw in the comments there. Sunset over the village. Beautiful. Beautiful head-turning art here from SG. So this was just posted. I don't think it was, there's no link to a marketplace. So I'm not sure if this has been listed yet. Really nice piece here. And look at this. This is from June 28th, Summerfields on Foundation, also from SG. So we're always trying to keep it new here, and look at how subtle this gradient is. And oh, there's a little texture in it. And I even wonder if there's a little bit of movement here. I can't tell, but it's tempting to think. Very interesting work here. Is this a GIF? Let's see. View metadata. PNG. So it is not moving, I don't think. Yeah, it is a PNG. And here is some of SG's other work, osurielguil.eth. So interesting artist here, pretty reasonable prices, very nice work. Look at this, I think Sabato retweeted this, Milaya. A moment before, so very edgy work here. And just really interesting drop shadows. What I would call very counterintuitive art here is almost, how we were talking about indie digital art, I kind of want to group this in there. This nice little, what do you call that? A candle holder or candelabra. Here is a doe or a small deer from behind. Very oddly, almost reminiscent of machine a little bit. What I call gradient artists or these airbrush artists. Just very interesting. Here's a close-up here. Just very interesting. So another new artist here is Zoso, Out and In of the Mirrors. So let me get my mic turned here. So you get the full effect. Turn up the volume. The unique artwork of Zoso. I mean, it's delightful. Absolutely delightful. Just fun, original, crazy, wild composition here. Out and In of the Mirror, 3 Tezos, edition of 20. 11 left, so selling. Nice work. So Seba Sestaro, memory number 9. So a new memory here, edition of 25 for 8 Tezos. Nice work here, cool legs here. So more kind of surreal art here, kind of inner portrait of inner space to a certain degree of memory, an interesting subject. And yeah, I mean, there's this window here, almost some Magritte-like curtains here, and everything. Just cool, interesting colors, interesting animation, right? And this fuzzy, that gives a sense of memory for sure. That fuzzy edge there. Memory number 9 by Seba Sestaro. Let's continue. Ezra Eslin, Caught in a Lie. I thought this was a brilliant work here. Very interesting work, almost the semi-transparent shirt here. The person, caught in a lie, and you kind of a deep psychological work here. With the person looking in the mirror, kind of thinking twice, and you wonder who, caught in a lie to themselves as they look in the mirror, and then the fire kind of ominously burning here. And interesting wanted signs maybe with this person. Cheering to themselves, maybe a narcissist of sorts, right? Giving cheers to the mirror. Who knows? Quite a brilliant, provocative, interesting work of art here. From Ezra Eslin, Caught in a Lie, edition of 25 for 25 Tezos, 6 left on primary. No, they're not going to mint another worthless GIF. I saw this actually, it was Unknown Collector who was posting cool feeds. No, they're not going to mint another worthless GIF. They love me. So this is a course, I think Jake Studios, I think is the name. We have just a Ethereum address here. A pretty cool piece, nice piece, and those kind of trademark, pixelated, hand-drawn pixelated clouds and everything. Really, and the three eyes, surreal illustrator. This is Primitive RE First Date. Interesting piece here. Let's see if we can make it bigger. Here it is. So interesting digital painting here, and you see a little bit of dripping here, and almost a Basquiat feeling, but not quite, and just kind of cool work here. Still its own thing here, and is, trampling over a car, these kind of big figures here, almost like barbarian type figures with a weapon in the hand here. First Date. These two finally matched. Digital art, 7,000 by 6,000, only 13 megabytes. Interesting. Half a sol, interestingly, which is turning into real money. $30. Edition of 5. L'Inquisiteur, Peste et Cholera. Cool title. So pest, probably referring to disease, and maybe cholera as well. I thought L'Inquisiteur was some awesome juxtapositions here. Of course, this looks like the old, mask you'd find from the Black Death. I think what are we talking about? 1347? Was it 1347 or 1247 to 1251, 1249? I should really know that. Boccaccio was writing at the same time. That's the start of Boccaccio's Decameron. If you want there's a few good plague narratives. That's one of the more famous ones. The opening, the introduction, I guess you'd call it, of Boccaccio's Decameron. And also, if you want a really good one that's a little longer, the guy who wrote Robinson, Daniel Defoe, Journal of the Plague Year, another great one. So anyways, these are medieval plague masks here, classically, like interestingly. You can see how they're trying to get away from the breathing. We're at 1 hour here. Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit here. Anyway, great juxtaposition. This looks like maybe Assyrian art in the background. They just shut down in Berlin, the Pergamon for like 15 years or something, until like 2035. And that's where you can see, they also exist in the British Museum. You can see them there. Juxtaposed with like a power plant, a nuclear power plant, a nice rendition of the steam coming out of the nuclear power plant. And even over here, this is quite a brilliant work here, and even really nicely done. Looks like a sampled brush maybe to make the ground kind of, and then you zoom out and you go, what's going on here? Very interesting work here. Life is not a choice, kind of enigmatic. Only 2 Tezos, 3 left on primary. Rosetto, a banal screensaver. So I guess real-time commentary here from Rosetto. The good, the bad, and the very bad. And here we see the eyes kind of desaturated, interestingly, with a beautiful kind of purple, almost like an oil pastel of sorts, but digital. And a couple of skulls here, and almost like one of these monsters of sorts, and everything here. So just another kind of surreal collage digital artwork by Rosetto. This is pretty cool up here too. A drive prompt and everything. Cool putting the title in it too. Nice little semicolons. Banal Screensaver, edition of 20. Is this sold out or not listed? A couple of sold. This may be listed now, I think is what's going on. And exactly. So it has been listed just since I brought up that page. Dinner is ready. Gabby Walters. So I missed the last couple of Gabby Walters. This just came out. Dinner is ready. So referring to, was it Judith who, remember we were talking about the Bible and famous stories to know? And this seems to be a take on presenting the head of John the Baptist when he was beheaded. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, Judith. So here, seemingly referencing that with a bit of a Terminator in the background here, underneath the skin. Nice touch. Dinner is ready. Edition of 15 for 12 Tezos, 2 left on primary, just released. And this came out last week, Last Supper. So another interesting work here. And again, kind of referencing what looks like John the Baptist here. A different kind of Last Supper here. So interesting subject matter here. Interesting kind of floating bubble as a head here. On top of this figure here. And there's a crash test dummy and a Mickey Mouse with a broken ear. Interesting work from Gabby Walter, and that's on secondary for 28. That came out a week ago. Weissman Goldminovich, the Vanguard Toast, Salud. And what's interesting, it almost looks like Molotov cocktails here or something. So here is the underground convening here and having a toast. Wasteman, Goldminovich, 2 left at 2 Tezos. And the myth, I picked one of these up. It was just a low edition myth for 5 Tezos. Life's good. This is from the 2021, but it is just released. So a cool, kind of nice Microsoft Paint pixel artwork or artwork by The Myth, just released here. And here's Cap'n, Dust. So again, some more kind of astronomical subject matter. Nice GIF. And here is actually the person, Michi P. So Michael Hughes, who we saw with the comments on the curation earlier here. So pretty cool artist, I might add here. And I do understand if you're never included and everything, but it's a story of so many artists' lives. I just go to accept it. All to say, this is very cool, this work here. Very original. Let's see if we have any details. 2023, 2160 by 2160, sold for 0.06 and just listed a couple of days ago. So not bad at all. And 0.6, that's still like $120. Not bad at all. Not sure if there's volume. No, there's white, black, green, and red. So cool animated abstract here. Here's another one, Bees and Dave. Here is another one. So cool animated abstracts here as well. And one more from Dave. This almost looks like the picture of a projector with the matte black in the background. Like it almost looks like a physical rendition here, but I'm pretty sure it's digital. Interesting. Ex-Mortal Surface. So really nice treatment of the edges here. Great color from Ex-Mortal of this kind of natural subject matter, fish in the sea. And here is Renki Sato with another cool animated abstract with a lot of delay and filtering and everything. Edition of 10, available for 11 Tezos on Object. Denairis El Bujo. Interesting piece here. It looks like almost using the owl as a paintbrush and then drawing right across. Interesting. I like the whimsicalness of this. 2 Tezos, and there are 7 left on primary. And continuing on, kind of a take on Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures here, cover by Peter Saville, I believe is the great graphic designer. I think we could just call him an artist who did so many of the factory record covers, as well as this one, I'm 99% sure. Sleepwalker by Perfect Loop, reserve of 0.13. Automata exhibition in Rome by Satiris NFTs. I'm getting tempted to move to Rome. Yeah, that's a whole other, and we don't have time to talk. Well, another time we can talk about the virtues. There are a lot of drawbacks too. Let's bring this up. This is Marquee Model. Yesterday is tomorrow is today. Just a little fragment here because I think it might be longer. Just a nice piece, eh? Beautiful. As we glide into Friday afternoon here. Just washes over you. It feels great. There's something to be said for that. Look at those great pixels. So very nice work here. You could just take stills out of that. Look at that. So very cool work by Marquee Model, House of the Model. Yesterday is tomorrow is today. Probably made the music. And this is on ONBD's World. So I think there's a new World by ONBD coming out. They're great people over there, really friendly and just cool. Etzo and Inavare. So here the portraits of these artists continues here. And so another really cool version. Can't wait to see the physical on that too. Just really cool. Nice kind of double image giving the Etzo treatment. I think it's so brilliant. Glitched portraiture, to do portraiture. It just makes perfect sense. And they're kind of, it's a brilliant collection. Etzo, just done it before with the furniture and does it again with the portraits. Really brilliant. Bosque, again, the importance of subject matter, it's central, so continuing on, Bosque Gracias, Vuelapu and Vuelape Lucas. I think this came out last October 27th. I never saw this one. It is a collaboration. And so just wanted to share this one. These really interesting collages, digital collages. There's a little bit more going on than collage, but I also like this. So this one is a collaboration, and that is available for 4 Tezos 20 cents on, and I'm not sure if Paul, who is a ghost, did they buy them all? Or maybe transferred? Not sure what's going on here, but it's pretty reasonable price either way. $3.58. Cool looking work. Ellie Lowe. It's another new work here. Ominous conjecture. Ominous conjecture, as we can see from the subject matter. So very interesting to see what Ellie Lowe is putting out following that wonderful trash series. So glad to see it continues. I was worried that Ellie Lowe was just going to close the account. It continues, which is great. Okay, we're almost done here. Brandon Rector. This is on Instagram. I'm not sure if it's been minted. This is 3D CGI using Blender. Very nice. And I have to say, this kind of curved basketball pipe here, or whatever you'd call it, it really makes the piece, doesn't it? But, I mean, the deeper you look, the more you see. Just nice CGI art. Not easy. And continuing on. So here we have Strange Thing. As we go into AI, just released here, GM Art Family. So I feel like Strange Thing has cracked a code and is putting out like really, what I would consider really, really nice works of art. The colors are off the charts here. And look at these great kind of worn down edges, the painterliness. Shall we just try and open this a little bit bigger here? I mean, look at this. So this is like, hasn't even been minted. Pretty nice how it's standing up here, and all this roughness just gives it a beautiful feeling here on the edges here, but clearly AI as you zoom in here, but when you zoom out, and looking again kind of oddly familiar, but I'm not exactly sure where. Really nice work here. Almost got a Dali. It feels like there's a Dali. It feels like there's a Dali component to this in the bread, even the dripping bread, but even the subject. This looks straight out of a Dali, and even this tablecloth looks like it's out of a Dali's Last Supper. That's what it looks like to me, but in a completely different context. Interesting. And I love this text up here. Just another fantastic work. And here's one minted on Super Rare. Through the lens of generative AI art, Judgment not only invites introspection on the duality of innocence and culpability, but also poses a profound question to humanity. Okay, so let's 2 ETH as a reserve, and here is the work. Let's do this. And so, again, looks oddly familiar, doesn't it? And as we zoom in here, holding up quite nicely, I would say. We see these clearly AI lines, but looking pretty good. And then here we see the pixelated heads in the angels around this figure here with the balaclava and the fila. And again, the colors are just sensational. And here's the sky here. You see interesting textures here as well. So just more gorgeousness from Strange Thing here. Familiar, but not. Again, you can see an exhibition in Rome there for Strange Thing. Mikey de la Creme. We don't need no thought control. So another guitar work, again, an AI artwork. Interesting. Not exactly sure what the reference is here. I assume it's something, maybe referring to Pink Floyd, and the text there. Nice but beautiful AI painting there. Here's Sky Goodman. We stayed up all night, and we're going to have to figure out, so no volume on this one, but cool. Again, Sky Goodman likes to use several tools, oftentimes, probably AI. A lot of probably softwares are being used here. So another cool AI artwork, or cool artwork, let's call it that, from Sky Goodman. And this was just released as well. We stayed up all night. Great title. Part of a Homecoming series curated by Public Works. Only 15 Tezos, edition of 12. And here's Scamra with some interesting, with an interesting piece here. So just more experimentation from Scamra and these unicorns with the rainbows. Classic and just interesting, keeping it interesting. Marina Amadova, Visionary Reflections. Here's a one of one, and I think she's put out a few, so I thought just a nice piece here. As we round up the AI, this is a 101 for 55 Tezos, and these are super interesting as well. Mo P. Wellington. So happy to announce that today my new generative AI collection, Schlafzimmer, Bedroom in German, drops on Mprops Open Market. It goes live at 7 p.m. So I think this already went live. Nice. Pretty nice. And here's another one. I think Danielle King posted this. Schlafzimmer number 5 by Mo P. Wellington. Those lamps. Yeah, look at those lamps. And just everything, the textures. These look like, you have to imagine these as like physical paintings, and you'd say, this is pretty impressive. Mprops really has there's something really, a couple of people were saying, try out Mprops, you won't be disappointed, and I could see why. Neg AI, not alone, finding company with yourself, and you'll never spend a day alone. So just an interesting AI painting here as well. Kind of echoes of the pre-Raphaelites, I'd argue, at least in these kind of little lily pads here. Interesting sky, available on, is that secondary for 50 Tezos. So nice work there. Intro Void, enter at the egress 2023 Digital Painting and AI. And again, this would probably hang pretty well with Venta too. Some dragged digital brushes, sampled brushes here, nice textures here, combining AI, has its own feel. So this is Intro Void, AI figurative digital painting, available for 20 Tezos, I think on Primary. Ocote, our Global South series, which I'm really digging. Defend the rights of plants to grow. Planting a seed and caring for it is a revolutionary act. So we got the revolutionaries here continue to be portrayed. I don't think we showed this one. There are a few by Ocote, and this one is $250 and was just minted, I think, today. Today is November 17th. Good. For $250. So awesome work there. And this, I believe it's Tukes, A Study in Violet. So ever experimenting here by Tukes, and a really nice kind of serene, office here, home office, looking off to a sunset. Never get tired of sunsets. Vargard X on Instagram. Baseball card picture sold on Nifty Gateway. So Satchel Paige, I am with the Vanguard logo here, so another Vanguard work. And yeah, this looks like a very famous baseball card, and of course a very famous baseball player. So just very cool work here from Vanguard. You might remember this artist who did this work. Okay, and this work. And I think I might have missed this work that works with the golf carts. Really cool work here, selling on Nifty Gateway. Interestingly, here's another one. Let's see if we can make these bigger. This was sent to me by Josh Sobel. Aw shucks, like great send, Josh, who also sent me, by the way, the Ai Weiwei thing. I should have mentioned that earlier if I didn't. A week left to catch my show in Vancouver. So just more gorgeous work. Look at these paintings. Looks like a big mixer. Love the subject matter here. Love it. Beautifully treated, beautifully painted. Oil and acrylic on canvas. So usually the way that works is you start with acrylic and then you finish up with oil, because if you can put oil on acrylic, but you can't necessarily, you can put acrylic on oil, but it'll break up and it'll screw up. So usually the proper, quote unquote, proper way of doing it is first you do your acrylic and then you put your oil on top for the finishes. So it's seen as a way of saving money sometimes. And also it can create a cool effect. This is beautiful. And I love the size, actually. Subject matter, the size, even the crop, the color. Brilliant. Here's another one. I think it's the same artist, Ken A. Let's see, because if not, it's sort of hard to get through. Let's go through here very quickly. We're already at 1:18, so another 10 seconds is not going to hurt us here. So this is Ken A. Okay, it is the same artist here. Of course, super cool to show a painting in Europe for the first time with a really amazing group of artists. Again, I feel like there's all sorts of opportunities right now for artists with the internet. I think there's more openness than ever of discovering artists on Instagram, for instance, or Twitter, or X. And I think this is just another example. So I guess Ken A is maybe out of Copenhagen. Oil on canvas. This one is pure oil. Just beautiful, modern, colorful, contemporary plug-in, very cool. 25 by 18 inches. There's so much great art coming out. It's insane. And these are nice too. Yagi's posted these. Just collected Corpo Seco by Jessica Luz. This is my second piece from her Scary Other collection. The first one was Medusa. And so this is the new one. And I thought they were quite charming as well. The Medusa is pretty cool as well. So just cool works here. Cute and scary, as Molly Park says. And here's Machine. This has been added to the Joey Meyer collection. Thank you so much. And I thought this was hilarious, actually. It looks like Cristiano Ronaldo, and I guess a different Ronaldo, and hurt, a football player or soccer player with a hurt knee, and you're not sure if it's for real. And there it is in the flesh, or from scale, and here it is on the side. So pretty hilarious there. And that finally is your show. I'll do what I can to shorten the shows. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for all the support. Until next time, take care.